Ontario Place opened in 1971, a government showcase of the province's prosperity and diversity, a waterfront destination. Throughout the following decades, Ontario Place struggled to keep up with changing recreational habits and with financial self-sufficiency. By the late 1980s, Ontario Place had become primarily an amusement park for young children. In 2012, unable to keep up with the Wonderlands and Wildwater Kingdoms, Ontario Place was closed. How can Ontario Place be revitalized? Could it survive as a destination alone? If not, it must be considered a part of the city. Currently, there is no immediate neighborhood to keep Ontario Place active year-round. Ontario Place is separated from the city to the north by water, infrastructural barriers, and Exhibition Place. Exhibition Place is a 78-hectare site owned by the City of Toronto. It is a landlocked campus of large venues for fairs and conferences, set within surface parking lots and some green spaces. Like Ontario Place, it is isolated, publicly owned, underused, and is currently planning new development. If we consider Ontario Place and Exhibition Place together, Exhibition Place could better connect with the water, and Ontario Place could better connect with the city. A partnership between the province and the city would enable a coordinated redevelopment strategy that can bring new life to a larger area of the western waterfront. Before any development goes forward, both levels of government must work together to establish clear directives to structure new growth. What form could the planning process take? A strictly top-down approach, the total large-scale master plan, often results in development that is out of touch with the human scale, context, and the changing needs of a city. At 1.2 square kilometers, the combined area of Ontario Place and Exhibition Place is 4 times the size of Regent Park. The old Regent Park suffered from a total master plan that turned away from the city and created too many undefined and unvaried spaces. The new Regent Park, redeveloped through a public-private partnership with a single developer, is similarly alienating and relentless. A strictly bottom-up approach can be inefficient and result in incohesion and missed opportunities. Liberty Village has seen significant growth in the past decade. The former industrial area was cut off from the rest of the city. Despite recent development, connections have not been improved. Instead, the poorly considered mess of condo towers, strip malls, and suburban townhouses is all too happy to ignore the city around it. To avoid similar mistakes, it is important to develop a planning process that allows for both coordination at the large scale and organic growth at a smaller scale. Neighborhoods that work, like Kensington Market or the Annex, have diverse ownership, and development occurs at a smaller scale. While the scale and scope of OPEX make involving the private sector a reality, handing off major planning to a private consortium comes with great risk. Developers plan for profit, not for public improvements. For OPEX, the planning framework is the responsibility of the public sector. Hard planning sets out an urban fabric, transit, and open spaces. Soft planning, rules like zoning and building criteria, ensure a mix of uses in good buildings. Smaller-scale private development is encouraged by lower land prices and other incentives. Plot by plot, new growth brings necessary life and revenue. Streets are a city's connective tissue. They provide access, orientation, and the space for social and economic exchange. Good streets are active, support a variety of uses, and are well defined by a continuous street wall. A good fabric optimizes connections, transportation, and distribution. At OPEX, the new fabric fits around existing buildings and builds on existing connections, creating a variety of block sizes. There are different types of streets in the area. The north-south minor arterials, Dufferin and Strachan, are improved and extended to create better connections with the city. Lakeshore Boulevard is maintained as an east-west major arterial. Parallel to, but one level above the boulevard, are generous sidewalks. Streets cross over Lakeshore to minimize intersections. A web of local streets further connects the site, and laneways provide service access and a pedestrian network. Along the water, streets become quays, with recreational trails and walks at the water's edge. A grid is introduced on Ontario Place's East Island to allow for new development. Streetcar lines are extended through Exhibition Place and down to Ontario Place, connecting east to Union Station, west to Roncesvalles and up Dufferin to the north. A transit node forms at the Exhibition GO station, tying into a regional network. Currently, the site is largely open space, much of it underused and undefined. Good urban open spaces, like good streets, are well-defined, active, and support a variety of uses. Open spaces should be interconnected and varied in size, small, intimate courtyards and large collective plazas. Framed by buildings and lined with trees, they become urban outdoor rooms. The multi-purpose, flexible open space required by events like the CNE and Indy are reconfigured, but the total area is maintained. Surface parking is consolidated to local streets and new parking structures. At Ontario Place, the West Island is maintained as a green space open to the public. The East Island is developed, but as a porous neighbourhood with a network of lanes and courtyards surrounded by a highly public edge of parks at the water. Public amenities, boathouses, pools, cafes, the existing pods and marina, line and activate the shore. The northern edge of East Island is landfilled, nearing the water to create a canal. A mix of uses ensures a mix of people throughout the day. When uses are layered and in close proximity to one another, neighborhoods are vital and active. Most of OPEX is zoned for commercial residential mixed use. Plots are sized to accommodate a range of building types. To the west, along Dufferin Street, plots are generously sized and zoned for employment-led industrial. This provides space for startup companies, contributes to a resilient local economy, and creates manufacturing jobs downtown. Good buildings live. They breathe and are full of light. They are flexible, accommodating changing uses over time. Good buildings are also, in a sense, invisible, the backdrop for city life. New buildings at OPEX should not be flashy or loud, but work well, quietly. Zoning and building criteria can help shape good, background buildings. Stepbacks are dictated by sky exposure planes based on street width and orientation. The street wall is maintained by a minimum frontage on street lot lines. Setbacks are allowed on side lot lines and lanes, and a minimum is mandated when walls have windows. The maximum floor plate depth is 14 meters for residential to ensure light-filled and cross-ventilated rooms. Courtyards are a minimum 11 meters across. Floor heights are also set, 5 meters minimum for the ground floor and 3.5 meters for all floors above. Building criteria can also dictate the percentage of openings relative to orientation and mandate the use of durable and sustainable materials. Development will happen over time. Neighborhoods determine phasing. Gore could be the first step. It connects to the city north on Strachan and continues waterfront development from the east. A mixed-use area, it conforms to a palatable model of mainly residential development. WestX creates jobs, bringing people to the area. Located to take advantage of existing infrastructure, its large plots accommodate industry. The first few floors of large buildings are used as exhibition place parking. Exhibition Place reconfigures its open spaces. Midway is a wide north-south axis that connects to the lake. This space can host the CNE's rides and games, concerts and fairs, rallies, and sport events. Existing buildings are improved, and the stadium gets a new skin, creating an OPEX landmark. Exhibition Place's southeast is developed into ShoreX. Built on and around Lakeshore Boulevard, it continues to the water's edge. Many buildings have office space in them. The height allowed along Lakeshore Boulevard creates taller buildings with views over the city and lake.
Thus far, single file, James Hinchcliffe working his way through the field alley.
East Island is a fine-grained, mixed-use neighborhood. Laneways open onto intimate courtyards, narrowing again as they make their way down to the water's edge. A continuous park wraps around the island. The West Island evolves over time into a large, wild park. Existing structures are selectively repurposed for public uses. Many are left as ruins, follies along the rambling paths. The new canal is Ontario Place's link to the city. Revitalization at Ontario Place depends on its integration with the city. It did not survive as a fledgling destination, nor could it in the future. Working with Exhibition Place and the City of Toronto allows that integration to be coordinated and intelligent. A municipal-provincial partnership develops a planning framework that lays out an urban fabric and ensures a variety of quality open spaces. Zoning and building criteria are established to shape private development. Over time, a series of neighbourhoods forms around Ontario Place and Exhibition Place, bringing life to the western waterfront.